How you doing, everybody? My name is Michael Zapsik. I'm from AMC's Comic Book Men, and you're listening to iWalter.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hey everyone, this is Walter from iWalter. I apologize. You know what? I just have been talking for the past almost an hour and didn't even realize I haven't been recording anything. That's the most embarrassing thing I've ever done, and I just went off in a bleeding heart conversation about visiting down at Red Bank for the this past weekend because it was my 49th birthday. So it is recorded now. So this is really, because I don't know if I'm going to remember everything I just had mentioned. So anyway, since it is recording now, I have no clue what had happened. It is February 9th. It's on a Tuesday. I just had, came back home just yesterday in the afternoon from being down and paying, the visit down to Red Bank where I, had, I don't want to use the word successfully, but I did, did what I was said I was going to do, and I interviewed the people from the Comic Book Men individually. Now, I apologize because now I have to go back. I didn't realize. I'm going to keep a watchful eye this time, make sure I don't, screw up like I just did, and talk for like an hour straight almost, and record absolutely nothing. So that's really embarrassing. Maybe that was good. I don't know, but I'm going to do it now. First off, I just really wanted to thank those guys, Walt Flanagan and Mark. Now I got to look this stuff up again because, I just had all this, and now I got to look it up again. Mark and Mike. So give me a minute. Wow, that is really embarrassing though. Yeah, let me look at my shows too. I was basically saying that I was basically for the last week or so I said, hey, I was trying to decide where I want to go for my birthday. And originally I was going to, for the last 2 years I've been saying I've been wanting to go to down where Mardi Gras is. I don't drink. I don't like to party. I'm like a big prude. And for some reason, Louisiana. And I haven't done it yet. I'm not sure if I ever will, but it was in the back of my mind. I was like, well, you know what? I can't afford that. I can't afford to go down to to Louisiana. It's just too freaking expensive, and it's not even like you can take a plane for like $200 round trip, maybe a little bit more, but it wasn't that. It's just the living, find a place to stay is expensive because that's like a landmark is the Mardi Gras thing, and it's this time of year. It's around my time of my birthday, so and it was funny because there's this one girl. She's like a horror queen or whatever you want to call her, and I can't remember her name. She actually did go down. She does like horror movies, like these independent horror films. This one woman, it's on my Facebook, and she's at all these horror conventions. She went down. She spent she's been taking a lot of pictures and everything like that. I apologize, I don't remember her name. She had spent sorry about that. I just rubbed my nose. Her whole entire past week or so down celebrating because Mardi Gras not yet, but she's been down there celebrating that whole thing. And yeah, it's like, okay, I'm going to do it sometime. I think I'm going to find a way like to put the money aside and do it. Not this year. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to do something. I have to do something. For the past couple of years, I've been, trying to do more than just, okay, I want to take the day off from work and, I don't want to be there and find things to do or just take a couple days off. So about a month ago, maybe a little longer, I told a friend too, I asked my friend Todd, hey, would you like, I'm thinking this year I'm going to go up to Red Bank and I'm going to make an attempt without them knowing it. I'm going to ask them, can I interview guys from the Comic Book Men? So I was really determined to do that. Honestly, I said I was going to do it. And honestly, I was just basically talking out of my ass because I really thought I was going to, back out. I was going to be spineless and not do it. But when push came to shove, no, I did do it. I actually did. I was able to interview Walt Flanagan. Let me look up these names again. Mark. Make sure I get his name right. Mark Costello and Mike Zapik. I got to interview those guys, and Ming. I get his name wrong. Ming. He wasn't there. I thought he was, but he wasn't. So I apologize, Ming, if I got your name wrong. But I figured like this would be a good. What I mentioned before when I had it down correctly, when I didn't realize I wasn't recording now, which I obviously am now. I mentioned to a friend in agreement with my friend Matt Torrance. I said, and I give Matt a lot of credit for this because he really pushes me a lot, and it pays off. Because if he didn't push me, I probably wouldn't have done this. Matt has taught me this a long time ago. To get anything done, you got to step outside your comfort zone. And for me, it's just like basically talking to people. I have a really difficult time because honestly, I've been off of work. I'm still getting paid. It's like, and I mentioned this before. You haven't heard it, but I mentioned this when I thought I was recording. I'll admit I come off very wishy-washy. I come off very indecisive, and a lot of it's just my upcoming. I mentioned this before. It's the way I was brought up. I've been very secluded all my life, and I was very heavily picked on in high school. I was in these special ed classes all my life, so you get picked on for being in those special educational classes, for one thing. And two, I never really had a lot of friends. I've always been pretty much a loner. And it just, when I do, it's weird because the irony is the thing I really want to do is get into, radio, TV, film. I want to do that stuff where communications is what I went to school for, but I was strictly in communications for radio and television. But my thing was, why did I pick that? I don't know. Why do I like that so much? I don't understand, because I honestly am not very good with people. I come off very indecisive, and I come off kind of like creepy, I guess, to most people. So, the woman that actually went down to celebrate Mardi Gras this year, her name's Gianova Rossi, I think. She's a lovely lady. I met her in person one time, and I had added her to Facebook, and ever since then I just kind of follow what she puts up. But yeah, I just, when I was interviewing these guys from the Comic Book Men, I did have a really hard time, but why did I do it? Well, I wanted to do something that's going to help my podcast. I'll admit to that. I wanted to experiment, like actually dive in and do something that was more than just me interviewing, friends or, a friend of a friend, which the friend of the friend would be Ryan, because Ryan is more of a friend's friend. Ryan was the guy who actually did this film, by the way. He did this short independent film. It was called Agony. And, I wanted to interview Ryan because it would have been something different than me bitching and complaining about stories that I find on Facebook. And, honestly, I really appreciate that he did that for me. That was a big step. I was going to try to interview another friend who is trying to make an album, but he never got back to me. He said he never really did. And I was supposed to interview another friend who does poetry reading, and he does he makes web pages and stuff. He never got back to me about that. He was supposed to, but these two guys, two different people, never really got back. And I was like, okay, I need to step out of my comfort zone. Again, this is something I learned from my friend Matt Torrance, because Matt, he had to do that just to survive, to have a job, and he's very successful, I think, with his own business now. Matt is. And Matt stepped out of his comfort zone, I think, because he's kind of like me a little bit, that, he feels uncomfortable sometimes with people. He's much better with them than I am. But he started his own business, being a music teacher guy. And he's been very, very successful with that. And he's made a decent amount of money. He's been very, and he's also, he went back to college. Matt and I went to college years ago. We graduated at different times. We both got our degrees originally in communications, which I still hold my degree in communications, and so does Matt. But now he went back to school quite a couple years ago, and he's now trying for a degree to become, something with a background in music, because that's what he really likes doing anyway, more so than communications. I know that's a broad way of saying, okay, what in communications? Well, he was trying to go for film, and found that not really what he wanted to do. He wanted something else. But me, on the other hand, yeah, number one would be film for me. If I could get anything doing with pertaining to film, I would definitely do it. But and just a heads up, I mentioned this the first time around when I wasn't recording, but I promise I was not going to read any of these stories. I'll wait till tomorrow or whatever I'm back on to go back to my normal way of doing my podcast. My main reason for doing this, and I know I went way in a different direction already on actually recording the show now. I wanted to thank these guys from the Comic Book Men for taking the time to talk to me over the weekend and on Monday. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh God, how easily distracted I get. Matt, again, Matt had told me, you got to step out of your comfort zone. You're not going to get anything done unless you do something that makes you feel very uncomfortable. Something you're not used to doing. And for me, that would be, talking to people. And these guys from the Comic Book Men, they don't know me from, a hill of beans. I don't know them from a hill of beans. And, there was a couple times I think with Walt Flanagan, I actually stuck my foot in my mouth. One being I said, hey, Walt, there's a bunch of people that actually would love to see me not do this podcast anymore and are, trying to chip away at me. And he asked me, what specifically do you mean by that? And it was like, I could not answer him. And honestly, there's really actually only, I think, one person out of the four people who listen to me I would gather who would love to see me kind of just kind of shrivel up and go away. And that one person is probably because the way I present myself or the stories I read, and I gave this impression to Walt. I give this impression sometimes, I guess, from the stories I read that, I'm a homophobic, narcissistic asshole who, just not like people. And I really am not. It's just the stories I pick kind of go in that direction. It goes that most of the stories I find, I don't do it deliberately. I have, just to give you a heads up, I'm very conservative. I'm Republican. And I will stick by my guns on what on that thing. But, and I'll explain myself why, I probably even gave the impression to Walt, maybe even Mike, that I'm like some type of homophobe or probably gay myself, which I'm not. And I'll explain that in a minute. But yeah, the stories I read, honestly, aren't to offend anybody. They really are not. And I mentioned before, which again, if I recorded it, I wouldn't have to repeat myself now. So that's why I'm going to continue to say that. For one thing, a lot of my stories, my links that I put on my Facebook or, I try to get stories from are all conservative web links. So that will explain that. But yeah, it does, but I keep an open mind. I had friends that are gay and everything. Anyway, real quick, just to give you a heads up. I was trying to kind of lighten the mood with Walt Flanagan and Mike, and they literally, kind of made sure to step away from me right away after I made this comment. And I meant it in like kind of a joking way, kind of break the ice, and honestly, it kind of backfired. But I was mentioning, like, deliberately, I said, hey, to at least Mike and Walt, I was like, hey, I'm wearing this Batman shirt, and there's a funny story behind this, because I said I was ready to toss it in the garbage can after I had taken it to a Miley Cyrus concert, which I really did. I was like, I wore it to there to take some pictures, and they really weren't interested in my story. But I said, yeah, which now I'm repeating. I had taken there, and I take a lot of pictures. I've gone to a plethora of concerts in the past couple years and been taking tons of pictures. And I basically just said, hey, listen, this guy came up to me and he said, oh, are you a professional photographer? And I said, no, I'm actually not. I just do this for myself, hoping that somebody will actually see some of my pictures and like say, hey, would you like to sell some of your pictures? Would you like to help? Would you like to come to these, concert events and take pictures for us? That's what I want to someday, if I can't do anything else, I would like to, be able to do. But this one guy came up to me and he said, hey, after he said, are you a professional or anything like that? And he saw the Batman shirt. He said, I really like that Batman shirt on you. And he kind of made me feel very uncomfortable that this one guy at the Miley Cyrus concert. He said, well, I'd really like to be your Robin. So I kind of gathered, I don't have anything against it, but I just felt really uncomfortable. He made me feel extremely uncomfortable when he said that, because he was hitting on me, this younger guy. And I kind of, said to Walt Flanagan and Mike, that guy really made me feel uncomfortable. And I said, I had worn this shirt today to do the interview with those two guys when I came up, to kind of redeem myself with this shirt before I actually tossed it out, because I felt, basically like Ace Ventura in The Crying Game, when he kisses what he thought was a woman and he finds out it's a guy, and he's like washing his body and his mouth out with soap and water. Well, that's how I kind of felt with this guy. And it's nothing against this guy at the Miley Cyrus concert. The guy was really nice. But what is it? It was that thing from Lost where the guy, the one character says, well, you're not my type. And that's like what I'm thinking in the back of my mind with this, guy that was hitting on me. Is like, I was ready to say, well, you're not my type. But I didn't want to offend the guy. He was a very nice man, but young guy. But it was just like, dude, I'm not gay. I know I come off being that way. But when I made this joke with Walt Flanagan and with Mike, they seemed to get, actually, it appeared they seemed to get a little bit offended by that. So they're probably thinking, okay, A, this guy is gay and he's hitting on me, is my assumption. Or the opposite, they probably think I'm a total, like, okay, this guy's like one of these homophobes. And we really don't want to surround ourselves with that. And it's like, well, no, I'm not. Yeah, I come off that way, but I'm not. I really don't care whatever people, what they believe in. The only time it bothers me was like, again, when that guy hit on me, he made me feel, it wasn't the first time. I remember years ago, this is no joke. I worked at this place, it was a card store. It was not a bar. It was called Cheers, and it was down in Horsham. And there was this guy, he was gay, and I was working in there, and he came up to me, this older man. I was like only in my 20s then. And he asked me, and it was around Valentine's of all things. He said, so do you have, a Valentine or a significant other for for Valentine's? And I said, I lied to him, and I said, yeah, I actually do, which I didn't then, I still don't. But I didn't know what to say. He just got me off guard. It's like, okay, this guy's like hitting on me, and I don't know how to like respond back. And I'm like working in this novelty card store that was equivalent to Spencer's at the time, a small gift shop. And, I didn't know how to react. So, and trust me, I have friends that were gay. I mentioned this before, but it's just kind of strange because I guess I come off being very feminine. But just because I'm feminine, sound like I'm feminine and, indecisive, honestly, I'm not gay. But don't get me wrong, I have nothing against gay people because years ago, some of the gay people I knew were really, really cool. And, they didn't, I don't know, it seems like the gay people I meet nowadays seem like prima donnas. Like, they get very arrogant and very catty, a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. But some of them, honestly, were like really cool people to hang out with. I don't have a problem. And, I don't appreciate people who, like, because I read some article I'm not going to go into because that was in my gist today. There was like, I read some story where this girl, she's going to get arrested now because she constantly is gay bashing. It's like, that is not fucking cool at all. That is not cool. That is not cool in my book at all. So just to get, and, the other thing is, before I go any further, which I'm sure people may take the wrong way, because a lot of stories I pull up are with, which it just so happens to be the way of a lot of African Americans. Does that mean I hate black people? No, absolutely not. And, another thing is I just hate that whole thing. Well, we got to call black people African Americans. That just drives me. It's like putting nails down a blackboard because, I've had friends in the past. My best friend, he was black, and I didn't say, "Oh, well, you're black. I can't talk to you." "Oh, I have to call you an African American." He was American, and I mentioned this the other day because it's another one of my pet peeves, which I really admired was when Oprah Winfrey says, I was called everything from, Negro American, African American, Black American. She says, why don't you just call me an American? That would just be the simplest way to put it. And when I read that about her saying that, I was like, yes, finally somebody, and there's a couple other people like that. Because if you want to be politically correct, maybe you should call me, what was I going to say? Why don't you just call me an Italian American? Because I'm, from an Italian Sicilian descent, so I would like to be called Italian Sicilian American. That makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, but I'll rant and rave about this stuff on a continuous basis until I'm blue in the face. But the whole point is, it's like, can't we just like finally drop? Are we going to have to call Latinos Latino Americans? I hope not. Because honestly, it just drives me nuts that we got to be so politically correct without offending anybody. So, but, I really went off on a nonsense story thing right now. But this past weekend, going back, I'm going to try to wean myself back into what I really wanted to talk about. I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I was talking to these guys, but I, again, some things that may be found offensive by others is me just ranting and raving about these stories I read. But the reason, and one of the big ones is my friend gets tired of hearing me talk about or complain about when I find these stories are, these school teacher, these women that constantly are, sexually assaulting young kids, and they get away with it and they get a pat on the back, whilst the kids are like, if they're guys, why don't you just suck it up? You should be proud that, you had some hot looking teacher hitting on you. It's like, no, actually, I find that really disgusting. And actually, now that I mention it, because I saw this the other day on Glee, where they actually did do a story on that, where one of the characters on Glee fessed up to it. He said, I never wanted to mention it. I was too embarrassed to say it before, but my deepest, darkest secret of the one character, he said, is I had my babysitter when I was a little kid. I was taking a shower, and my babysitter came in and started fondling me, and like when I was only 11 years old, and was sexually assaulting me. And he said, I was too afraid, the character, to say anything about it because I was afraid to see what would happen. Why you complain about this? So literally, what happened on the show, the other character said, the guy said, so what's the big deal? You should be proud that you had a hot-looking babysitter who was like 20 years old hitting on you when you're 11. She made you a man. You should be proud of yourself. And the guy got so embarrassed, the character, he said, yeah, I guess I'm taking the wrong way. You're right. But then the one other character on the show that was a girl, she said, well, I had, when I was little, because that, there's that thing with the roles being reversed. She said, I had a cousin hit on me. He put his hand down my pants. And she said, just because you're a guy and you got sexually assaulted by somebody older than you, she said, you should have turned that in. You should not feel ashamed. You should not be proud. You should be, what do you call that? Marked from that. Just because these guys say you should be proud of, you should be like, you got some hot looking older girl hitting on you. That doesn't make it right. So, why am I bringing that up? Well, that's another thing that I complain about a lot on my show. That's why I'm bringing that up. And and my friend Matt, he gets tired of me talking about that. He's like, Walter, you can't do anything about it or anything, but you can do something about it. You can bring it to people's attention, and hopefully, it gets corrected. But that's like the mind frame I'm probably going in when I'm trying to interview these guys from the Comic Book Men. And, I went in with this, making sure it's recording this time. So I obviously shut it off the first time when I try to record this stuff. I went in with this mind frame of, self-deprecating. I went in with that mind frame with Mike, with Walt Flanagan, and with Mark. And, again, it was difficult for me. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, talking to these people because, again, they don't know me. I don't know them. And whatever comes out of my mouth is going to be their first impression on what they think of me. And I come off very, insecure, very insecure. And some people, that's, very irritating, obviously. But, I tried to work through that. And I think I did an okay job. I know I messed up a couple places. Again, I think I kind of personally annoyed Walt Flanagan a little bit. But, that's the way I am. I kind of come off that way with a lot of people. But they worked with me. Walt let me come back in the store, which I appreciate. And he did a plug for me. But Mike and Mark actually let me talk to him a little bit on personal things. Sorry about that. Which I definitely appreciate. that all three of those guys, gave me the time to, talk to me. Unfortunately, I didn't come off as clear or as, as I sound now. I don't think. I think I came off a little bit the opposite way. But in another note, though, I think I did a pretty damn good job. For what it was worth. Doing something that normally I wouldn't find myself doing. And again, I wanted to do something besides just playing it safe because, as I was saying earlier, my friend Matt said, the only way you get anything accomplished or you get somewhere is by stepping outside your comfort zone, which I did. And, I try to make the best of it. What do I expect to accomplish out of it? Well, one thing was I did get definitely more of a listener base. I'm going to check that again because I started my show reading about that, and then obviously I didn't record anything, so that did not go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, again, I can't thank enough, these guys for working with me and, making my stay. Because see, you know what? When I set this up again, one thing again, I felt like I was, when I say, hey, I'm going to go down the Red Bank, I'm going to shoot these guys. I didn't know if they were going to let me do it or not. I was talking out of my ass, and then I go down there, they let me record them, and I thought that was really cool. And I guess I was kind of trying to stroke their ego a little bit. Well, okay, a lot. But at the same time, what was I going to say? I was also, being honest that what those guys are doing is something I would love to do. If I had the chance to do it, working on a podcast, working in a store, like that comic book store, that would definitely be a dream come true. Because the job I do right now is, as I put it before, is to these guys, it's a glorified janitor job. I'm basically called a support associate at a pharmaceutical company at a job that pays really well. It gives me excellent benefits, but I don't like my job whatsoever. I'm miserable. I'm like, I'm just basically, got one step in the grave just way ahead of time because I hate my job that much. And these guys go to a job that it's not a job. They're going to something that means something to them every day. And I'm trying to remember everything I said the first time around, so I apologize if I sound like I'm like just jumping all over the place. But Comic Book Men, by the way, the guys I interviewed, they will be broadcasting new shows this coming Sunday after The Walking Dead and after the Stalking Dead. So Sunday night is going to be coming the new Comic Book Men. Now, they won't mention anything about how I made them feel uncomfortable, probably not until next season, because this season, the stuff that's being shot was like actually from, this past year. So it's not, it's new. It's been recorded, but it was recorded last summer. So just to give you a heads up. Hey, if they would ever actually ask me, hey, would you be willing to come on and be on Comic Book Men? I would do it in a heartbeat. I really would. I would love to do that. Because these guys are touring now, too, or will be touring in the near future. So, there's that. Again, I'm trying to remember everything, so I'm really sorry. But I was originally going to stay until just the early today. I would have had to check out. But there was snow coming our way, and I have to thank the place I stay was it's called Molly something, and a hotel or motel. I get the difference. I can't remember. Molly, I think it's Molly Hatcher. I'm trying to type it in now. Oh, Molly Pitcher Inn in Red Bank. I stayed there. It was like 3 blocks to the comic book store. But the one thing was, that was the other thing, when I made these plans, it was like, okay, what am I going to do for 3 days in Red Bank? Because I really don't know what to do besides spend money. And the only place I really came to visit was the comic book store. So I'm going to spend 3 days in a place I have no clue. It's like a block long. There's really not too much to do unless you really know what's going on around there. And for some reason, it went really fast. It really did. I really enjoyed myself. I had a blast with those guys. It won, actually, believe it or not, it actually went probably too fast for me. My thing was, I guess, it's just the way I came off. I think I came off with the wrong impression to Walt, saying like, hey, I got people who would probably like to see me come off, have this show end, and probably even my, this gets placed on YouTube as well, these podcasts, and they probably just want to see me gone. But he was like, asked me like specific questions that I could not answer, which kind of probably irritated him a bit, Walt Flanagan. And honestly, there's probably, at most, there's like one person who, out of the 4 people who listen to me for the fact that they probably don't appreciate what I say. And the reason I'm saying that, probably because they think that, again, I'm some type of sexist homophobe, which I'm not. But yeah, but that was the thing I wasn't thinking. And this is another thing I mentioned, that didn't get recorded, that, when you're young, I'm pure id on the way I speak. Now, there was a thing, there's your id, your ego, and your superego, which develop at different stages of your life. Now, your id is the part of your process of thinking, or what before it comes out of your mouth. When you're a little kid, you're basically pure id. Anything that comes into your head comes right out of your mouth. Like, there's nothing to stop it. As you get older, you have your ego, which says, well, maybe I better think before I even mention what's like running around in my brain right now. When you get much older and become adult, you got your superego that says it's your parent inside your head that basically says, okay, you know what? It's your traffic cop that says, listen, you can't say this at all. So, unfortunately, though, just from my upcoming, being a person who, for some reason or other, just being picked on as a kid in high school, mentally abused, which is a lot worse than physical abuse, because mental abuse scars take a lot. They never heal. But incorporating this, the way I came off to Walt Flanagan, Mark, and Mike was, I'm just basically, I've suffered from what's called, I don't know if I mentioned this already, so I apologize if I did, what's called foot and mouth disease. That's basically, for those who don't know, that means you put your foot not literally, you put your foot in your mouth. Like, whatever pops into my brain, that's pure id that comes out of my mouth, meaning that whatever pops in my brain, there's no traffic cop, no parent voice in my head that says, listen, you can't say this. No, it just comes out. So if I say something, and it's almost like I have Tourette's. I don't have Tourette's, but I'm just saying, it's almost like I do. But whatever comes into my mouth comes right out of it too, or in my head comes right out of my mouth. Like, it's like a running faucet. There's nothing there that stops it. And and sometimes I don't basically I don't catch myself. So I'm like telling these guys, like, listen, yeah, and that was another thing. I think I did say this about this guy who was hitting on me, and I've had this happen in the past where guys hit on me thinking I'm gay, and I'm not. Just because of the way I, my non-verbal communication comes across, that gives guys the signal that are gay that, hey, this is a guy we can hit on. He's gay too. And it's like, no, I'm not. But I think that's part of it too. I probably came off, gave these guys, from the store, the comic book men, and run the Jay and Silent Bob store that, hey, this guy's a little bit, like hitting on us. And it's like, no, I'm not. I just come off that way. And, again, I was probably stroking her ego a little bit too, intentionally and non-intentionally. I was like, dude, you're doing the dream job I would like to do, something that I can go home and say, you know what? I don't even want to leave my job. I don't want to leave this job because this is not work. This is fun time, and I'm actually doing something like, that I'm making a living off of. The only time I ever felt like that, honestly, was when I was in college. Like, you couldn't get me out of the rooms, especially when I was in communications. There was nights I locked myself in the communications lab and basically, because we had a security guard to come around. And, I'd just wait until he would do his thing, and then I'd, like, go back and do some, like, video editing and stuff, because it was, like, so fun back then. But those days, I haven't felt, I've worked at the same job for 12 years, and I can't stand it. I hate it. But the only thing that keeps me there is the fact that the pay is so good. The benefits are excellent. I mean, where else am I going to go where you get paid $32 an hour? And the worst part is right now, I'm not even at work because they even got annoyed with me that they're paying for me just to not come in and show up to work. So, I mean, that's like, and it's not fun. But I'm not looking forward, in some ways, not really looking forward to go back into work because it's not going to be something I'm going to enjoy. I mean, these guys are doing something, Mike, Mark, and Walt Flanagan, they're all doing stuff they really, believe it or not, they got the dream job that we all wish we had. I know I can say for myself that I wish I had. I'm not even joking about that. And I mentioned to Mark, by the way, I said, Mark, you're like the epitome of, this store is the epitome of, for many of us who are fans of, the Secret Stash, it is like going to Disneyland. I said Disney World or Disneyland. I actually meant Disneyland. And he said, no, it's more like, and I didn't get the gist at first, honestly. I'm very slow. I thought he said, because I looked it up, what is it called? It's where Jaws was shot, Martha's Vineyard or something, which is like 7 hours from here. And he said, yeah, we're more like Martha's Vineyard, if I'm saying it correctly. We're not exactly Disneyland. It's like, well, and he said, I'm like shooting over, a little bit too high on way I think about these guys. It's like, not really, because you guys are doing exactly what I would like to do. Honestly, you're doing something that you're doing a podcast. You're hanging out within the realms of your job and outside of your job with people you call your friends. My job, honestly, would be amongst, the thousands of people that work at my job, at my company. Honestly, I never hanged out with more than one person. And that's not even like on a regular basis. That's like once in a blue moon. So overall, it's been a very depressing and very lonely job. I mean, most of the jobs I've had met people that I, made friends for years outside of my job. College, which is now whittled down to one that I'm still friends with. And with college, it's whittled down to one person. So there's only two people that I'm still in contact with, one from a job and one from college. But no, I don't have that that same atmosphere that these guys do amongst each other. So that was really cool. Again, I went in there. I felt like, okay, one thing was I went in there feeling very awkward, very uncomfortable. I know I must have made those guys feel the same way. Because, the the way you come across to people is the way you're going to make them feel as well. And, I know that, but it's not going to stop me from not being that way, unfortunately. But I'm going to check my ratings before I even end this show tonight. How many people listen to me, I mean. But not ratings. But it was cool. Again, meeting these guys. And I got them off guard. That's deliberately. I could have called the store and say, hey, listen, I'm going to come in and interview you guys. And I would guarantee you probably 100%, probably I would have got, honestly, I would have probably gotten shot down by Walt Flanagan. There would have been no freaking way he would have let me interview him, especially if he would have heard me, because he would have asked me specifically, what do you want us to do, and stuff like that, and which he did when I was in the store. But he felt bad because I told him, listen, dude, I'm down here for my birthday. I wanted to meet you guys. I wanted to ask you guys a couple questions. What do you mean by you guys? That's what Walt said. And I didn't know how to answer him. I was like, well, I guess the guys from the Comic Book Men, from the TV show and from your podcast, which honestly, I've never listened to their podcast. I apologize. And it's true. My dad and my one friend, Todd Thomas, they listen and watch the show when it's on TV. They're more into those shows than I am. I'm into other shows, but Walking Dead and Comic Book Men, I will make an attempt now to watch it. But hey, to be brutally honest with you, you think these guys listen to my podcast? Because they're not even worth listening to most of the times. I seriously doubt it. I mean, if they do, which I think they probably did at least this time, because I was interviewing those guys, they want to know what I said, which I don't blame them. Strictly because even Mark said, these guys, their boss is Kevin Smith, and they are under contract with AMC, so they got to watch what they say to me. And I was being very persistent to ask them questions about the upcoming movie of Clerks 2, and very persistent about what's going on with the View Askew universe, and very persistent about what's going on with Comic Book Men, which none of that stuff, really, they couldn't give me a direct answer. They're not allowed to, because they could jeopardize their job, their career, because of me, and I don't want that to happen. But they did take the time, and they did talk to me, which I do appreciate. They Walt gave me a discount too on my birthday. That was really nice, and I have to thank him about that, because I got which I'm wearing right now, the Yoga Hosers T-shirt. Walt gave me a discount on the shirt because it's like $18 normally. But he cut the price down because they sell everything at what it costs them to make this stuff. So he's basically sold it to me for $15. He knocked $3 off. Hey, and there's no tax, so that was, that's cool. But I did buy a lot. I bought like at least a little over $100 worth of stuff. Probably more like 150, maybe close to 200 if I think about it. But hey, that was really cool that I was able to visit the store. And I try to be careful because honestly, I would have probably spent easily like $500 to $1,000 in Jay and Silent Bob store, because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of crap, and not crap, but there's a lot of really cool stuff in the store. And there's a lot of cool View Askew universe stuff in that store. But and I asked, because that was cool. Like, if you heard my show when I interviewed him, that Sam Lee was in the store at one point. Stan Lee. I'm sorry, Sam Lee. What's that? Stan Lee was in the store. He's coming back again. And also, Adam West was one time interviewed, which would be probably at the store. Was either there or maybe they went out to California. I can't remember correctly, but they did see Adam West. But they met some really cool people. And, and honestly, for us people that, want to do, live the dream that Kevin Smith is now, and what these other guys are from the Comic Book Men, maybe it hasn't sunk into them yet, but that is literally for a lot of us people out there, you guys, if they actually listen to my show, you're living the dream that we all want. most of us are going to spend the rest of our life working a 9-to-5 job. I'm not knocking it, that we really don't like. That's the whole gist of why Kevin Smith did Clerks. But I want more out of life than that. And that's why I try this. Try to do this. I try to do like short films that aren't that great. Why I try to make attempts on a lot of stuff I do. But you know what? They also, they give me and many other people. I try to say this to Mike. You guys, just from your podcast, I know I can't really say much. I really don't listen to them. I have caught a glimpse of Comic Book Men, though I can say that, not a lot, but a little bit. And I've seen these guys, especially Walt Flanagan, in the films. But you guys, from doing this stuff, you give us hope, us little people. You give us hope that, if you try really hard, you might actually possibly be able to pull it off. You might be able to someday live your dream, live the dream that you guys are living now. They've given us hope on that. And I'm not just saying that. If it wasn't for them, even on this interview, and obviously last year when I had visited down went to Red Bank, and going to the few quite a few times now to these these things where Kevin Smith shows up or the Comic Book Men show up. If it wasn't me hearing them and seeing how they influence other people, I would have never even done this. I would have never thought about doing a podcast. But it was from, Kevin Smith always talking about doing them, the comic book guys doing their shows. Last year, hearing about all this stuff, it was like, you know what? I haven't had any success with doing, my short films or getting in to be a grip or working behind or trying to get some like small part as an extra in a film. Let me try this for a change. Let me try my voice. And I have to thank these guys. But I'm not the only one you guys influence. There's other people out there. In last year, I think it was, when I saw Kevin Smith at the comic book convention in Jersey, there was a young kid who said, or actually it was in Red Bank, this kid said, hey, Kevin Smith, a younger kid, he was like less than half my age, who said that Kevin Smith influenced him to make an independent film. And it was like, wow, this guy is like influencing people like teenagers, adults, because I'm an adult, and to other people to, do more. And, I know those guys say, well, Kevin Smith, yeah, he's the root of this whole View Askew universe. Yes, that's true. But he has truly, and you guys have influenced so many people, because you guys are like the real deal. You're like real. You're a real person. You're not just somebody who was born and raised in Hollywood. No, you're born and raised in Red Bank, and now you are you're on AMC. You have podcasts. You do cameos in the films with Kevin Smith. This is something that we, me speaking for myself, thought would never be possible. Me even just interviewing the guys from the comic book store, that is like something I thought I would never be able to. Now, that was me just taking a risk, and that I thank my friend Matt, with his pushing me, to do more. I have to thank him for that, but these guys actually let me do this. Actually let me, for a small fraction of my life, for those 2 days, let me live at least in that dream of doing something that I thought I'd never be able to do. So, so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to mention that too. I got to thank those guys, even though I might have, messed up a little bit, sound a little bit, indecisive, uncomfortable. Mentioned like Ming's name wrong or something. I didn't do that deliberately. If I did, but the thing is, hey, this is something that was really cool. You guys had taken the time. Again, I can't say it enough to help me with my show. And that reminds me too. On that note, I gotta take a step back and check, because I don't know if I read those. I think I did, but I'm gonna look at it one more time, because maybe then I'll just let this podcast go, because I'm gonna watch. I would take a break. I wasn't going to do anything today, but then I decided, well, maybe I better. I got to thank these guys for, stepping and taking somebody as crazy as I am and, let me interview them. But as of now, at 9:50, which is exactly 24 hours after the fact that I put this stuff up, even though I did it yesterday and Saturday afternoon, I've gotten 21 hits on the Mark Costello interview, which honestly, it got really screwed up. Something with my computer was screwed up. I have two computers I use to record my podcast on. One's my PC computer. That's the one I do with Mark Costello. And then for Walt and also Mike, I used my Apple laptop, which it came out much better, the sound quality. But Walt Flanagan's little intro to my show got 15 hits now. The interview with Mike yesterday got 22 hits at this point, and his little plug for my show has now gotten 10 hits for Mike Zapek. So that's really cool. Now my statistics, though, at this point, 24 hours after the fact, says I got 43 hits on demand and 6 downloads. So I've never gotten that much before. I got the percentage on these people is 87.1% in the United States listener base and 12.9% in France. Now, just to give you a general idea, if I read this before, I apologize for reading it again. But the top cities where I'm being listened to, it's not a big, large percentage, but it's in many different places. Coatesville, Pennsylvania, Dover, Delaware, Telford, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, PA, Danville, PA, Mountain View, California, Sewell, New Jersey, Green Lane, PA, Cornea, it looks like Corna, New York. I'm not sure where that is. And Quakertown, PA, and I apologize for mentioning that wrong. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for letting me talk to you. And I know I came off like a crazy lunatic over the weekend, but you don't know how you comic book men guys, Walt Flanagan, Mark Costello, and Mike Zapek had made this the best birthday of my life. Guys, thank you so much. And anyway, at this point, I'm going to sign off, and before I make a fool of myself. And look, hey, I didn't tell you any of these crazy stories that I normally mention on my show. So that's good for everyone, because I think people get kind of tired of that. But I will go back to that. Anyway, thanks again. I'm signing off for now. This is iWalter, and have a good rest of the night. Thanks.